So it's official. We've got a massive Nintendo Direct happening this Friday, and I've got a wish list today for you all, 15 third-party games that could make it one to remember. Now, some of these, realistic, some are total long shots, but what if we got something wild, like a Black Ops 7 or even a Gears of War? What games would blow your mind if they showed up? Let me know down in the comments, and if you want all of the direct coverage without the usual rumor mill rubbish, hit subscribe. That's what we're here for. We do daily Switch content. All right, let's get into it. So I've got to start with Genshin Impact, the free-to-play open-world RPG. It mixes Zelda-style exploration with anime gacha chaos. Because, well, honestly, look, it's become a bit of a running joke. It was announced for Switch years ago. It was teased, delayed, then it just vanished. With Switch 2's extra horsepower, however, a full native version, no cloud nonsense, that finally feels possible. And getting that open-world handout, I think it'd be a massive win. Now, if it shows up in this Direct as well, it'll just feel like the payoff to a very long wait. And okay, if September made Silksong real, maybe miracles do happen. Next up then is Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. This is the reimagining of one of the most iconic JRPGs ever, and it's been rebuilt with modern visuals and a completely overhauled combat system. Now, we obviously know this one's coming, had a huge feature at Gamescom just recently. I even got to go hands-on with it in handout, and look, there's a video down below, but in summary, looks gorgeous, runs flawlessly, and yeah, it just feels like the full experience. But at this point, the only thing missing is a release date, and with this massive 60-minute Direct, I think it just makes perfect sense to finally drop it. So much in the same vein again, Elden Ring Tarnished Edition. It's another one that just needs a release date. This is the definitive edition of From Software's open-world action RPG. It's incredible. It's the base game, the DLC. Now, I played it at Gamescom recently, and honestly, my first impressions, well, yeah, they weren't amazing. The frame rate in the opening stretch through the Chapel of Anticipation, they dipped, hard. Once we hit Limgrave, however, it did stabilize. This all said, though, just weeks later, PAX West footage looked miles better. So my curiosity basically is right back where it should be. I'm incredibly excited. I want to check it out. It's also, though, pegged for 2025, so this Direct feels like the perfect opportunity to finally lock in that date. Assassin's Creed Shadows now, and this is Ubisoft's stealth action RPG. It's set in feudal Japan with dual leads. It's the first time the series has ever gone to this setting, something I think fans have been asking for forever. And there's even been a Switch 2 rating spotted, so it feels like a real candidate for this Direct. Now, I will be honest, it wouldn't have been my first pick from the series. I actually really enjoyed Mirage for just stripping things back. But after the stand-up job Ubisoft did with Outlaws on Switch 2, I'm genuinely excited to see anything they release. If Outlaws proved anything, it's that they've got the hardware nailed. And having a new Assassin's Creed on Switch 2, I think it would be a huge moment. Hades 2 is Supergiant's follow-up to one of the most celebrated indies of all time. It's a roguelike action game built around fast-paced dungeon runs where every attempt makes you stronger. But just like the first game, it is incredibly challenging, but incredibly addictive. Now again, we know this one's coming. It's been playable, in fact, on Switch 2 for a while now. I've actually been spending time with it on PC. But this is what I know from that experience with early access. It's every bit as special as the original. It's already then as well been shown at Gamescom, and again at PAX West. It was also being shown pre the Switch 2 even launching. So the game is clearly close. So at this point, just like with Final Fantasy VII and Elden Ring, the only thing we're really waiting on is a release date. And I think again, much like Silksong finally dropping, when this lands on Switch, it's going to be a massive moment. So I do think those are kind of the safe bets. They might not all show up in this Direct, but I think we can say with confidence they'll be on the Switch 2 at some point. Hopefully, of course, sooner rather than later. But now let's move into the ones that are a bit more out there. These are the dream picks, the ones that would really basically make this Direct go off if they happened. So we're starting then with Metaphor ReFantazio. It's a fantasy RPG from the team behind Persona. Now, I've already played it on PlayStation, and for me, it's a masterpiece. Dark, ambitious, loaded with style, and yeah, you'll be leading a young hero and his fairy companion on this quest to save a cursed prince. Along that journey, you'll unlock job classes, and these, they completely reshape combat. Having seen how good it looks in motion on PlayStation, it's kind of hard not to imagine how well it could kind of slot onto Switch 2, especially handheld. And Atlas, they've already been backing the system. You know, we've got the upcoming Persona 3 remake, hopefully Persona 4 revival, not far behind. But this is the one I'd love to see make the jump. If it did, it'd kind of feel like Atlas just planting a flag on this new system. Resident Evil 7 is Capcom's survival horror reboot. It took the series back to claustrophobic hallways, but it also introduced first-person scares. Now, rumours they've been swirling about it coming to Switch 2, and while I do doubt we'll get the latest entry just yet, it feels more like an anniversary play for next year. Starting here at the beginning of that modern trilogy, I think it makes perfect sense. Now, it did actually as well technically appear on Switch before, but only as a cloud version in Japan. So a full native port would be a completely different story. Now, I've played through this one a couple of times, in fact, including in VR, and trust me, that first encounter in the Baker house, creepy as hell. If it shows up running natively on Switch 2, I think it's just a huge statement for the future of Resident Evil and Nintendo. Granblue Fantasy Relink is an action RPG spin-off of the long-running mobile series. Now, it's huge in Japan, but Relink is the game that finally gave it that proper console push. Now, I played this one personally on PlayStation, and while it might not be on many people's direct wish list, I actually think it's a perfect fit for Switch 2. It's a gem of a game, basically. Fast, flashy combat, beautiful anime-style visuals, and a campaign that doesn't end when the credits roll. The story just feels like the beginning, because that's when the multiplayer, it really opens up and you start tackling in-game content with your friends online. It's awesome. I had an absolute blast with it, and bringing that kind of RPG energy to Switch 2, I just think it makes too much sense. The Blueprints is a surreal indie puzzle game with roguelike elements, and it's set inside an impossible shifting mansion. You're tasked with exploring its halls and uncovering its secrets, but here's the twist. Every new room you add changes the path ahead. It creates this strange Escher-like labyrinth that constantly rewrites itself. Now, I played it on PlayStation, and yet it genuinely just melted my brain more than a few times. But that's exactly what makes it so incredible. It's clever, it's disorientating, and it's completely unique in its delivery. Switch, for me, it's always been a natural home for inventive indies, and on Switch 2, I really think this would just feel right at home because I think it's absolutely perfect for handheld play. All right, so we've covered the safe bets, and now we've just covered a few that would make this direct just go off. But now it's time to get into the out there picks, the kind of announcements that would genuinely just shock me if they happened. And yeah, these are the ones that would have us all jumping out of our seats. Do remember as well, if you enjoyed this so far, consider subscribing. Helps out a huge amount. Ninja Gaiden 4, and I still can't believe this one is real, honestly. We've been waiting like a decade for this entry. But the original trilogy, it's already on Switch. They run beautifully on that hardware, so bringing the new one across to the Switch 2, I think it just feels like a natural next step. You know, it's finally landing this October on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. It's co-developed by Masters Team Ninja and Platinum Games, and from what I've seen, it is everything you'd hope for. Violent, fast, brutally challenging. And yeah, I've sunk more hours into the older games than I can count, and the idea of getting a brand new entry running on Switch 2, yeah, sounds good to me. So yeah, if this showed up in a direct, it would be incredible. Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2, and this is one I've already played on PlayStation. It's exactly what you'd expect. Big, brutal action where you carve through swarms of Tyranids with chainswords and bolters. The story, it's great fun. It's loud, it's over the top in all the right ways. Now, I will be honest, the multiplayer didn't click for me. I was hoping for Gears of War. It ended up feeling too slow. But the campaign, that more than makes up for it. And the idea of playing this kind of large-scale spectacle, handheld on Switch 2, would be wild. You know, Saber Interactive as well, they've already proved with World War C they can make this sort of chaos run on the hardware. So Space Marine 2 making the jump, yeah, I think for me personally, that feels like a real possibility. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and for me this is another masterpiece. Now, I've been playing it a lot on PlayStation. They've taken everything from the first game, made the right tweaks, and then expanded it just massively. It's still the grounded medieval RPG, no dragons, no magic, just kind of gritty swordplay, politics, and survival. But now it's with a scope that feels so much bigger. Also, the combat feels heavier. I think the writing is better, and the world itself, it's just more alive. And just when you think as well with this game you've seen everything, the game kind of pulls the rug out from under you and it drops an entirely new map on top. I can't say too many times, it is massive. See, I loved the original. It's on the Switch. It's a very good port in my opinion, but this sequel is just so much more ambitious in every single way. And seeing something like this running on Switch 2 would be, oh yeah, honestly, it'd make my day. It would be absolutely wild. Gears of War Reloaded then, and this one recently launched everywhere but Switch, and I've just wrapped up the campaign. It's still as great as I remember, but for me, the heart of this series, it's the online multiplayer. Back at university for a little story time, this was the game that defined my nights. Endless matches, beers, trash talk, and the pure buzz of just pulling off like a clutch shotgun kill. Yeah, feels like yesterday. Now, I will admit, with this re-release, I've been playing it on PlayStation. I still can't quite get used to it with that controller. My head just kind of tells me this belongs on an Xbox. But even with a few balancing issues that it does have, it definitely needs a patch. It's been great fun. I've sunk about 50 hours into it over the last couple of weeks, which probably says more about my unhealthy obsession than anything else. But yeah, honestly, seeing Gears land on Switch 2, well, it would probably be bad for me because I would not be able to put it down. Call of Duty Black Ops 7 then is where I think that Xbox and Nintendo deal, it could finally start paying off. They signed the agreement to bring future COD entries to Switch, and I'm hoping it starts here. The only thing I can't quite wrap my head around is how it would actually work. The Gamescom trailer was so over the top. There's huge set pieces, guns going off all over the shop. I feel like it's already pushing the PS5 and Series X. Still though, if Switch 2 really wants to make a statement, this is the one that could do it. You know, a proper native Call of Duty on Nintendo hardware. That would be a moment that breaks the internet. Finally then, Clair Obscur Expedition 33, and for many people this has already been the game of the year. It's a turn-based RPG with real-time elements, you know, time button presses and quick reactions. It makes the combat incredible. And then it's set against this strange, dreamlike world where you're leading an Expedition 33, to stop this mysterious paintress from erasing humanity. Now, I've played it on PlayStation. It is incredible. It's stylish. The music is beautiful. It's unlike anything else I've touched in a few years, honestly. And with games like Death Stranding 2 and Hollow Knight Silksong fighting for attention, the fact this one still stands out says it all. Many are calling it Game of the Year. I agree. But bringing it to Switch 2 would only grow that audience more, and I think it would be a stunning way to close out a Direct. And that's the list, 15 third-party games I'd love to see in this week's Direct. Some are safe bets, some are total long shots, let's face it, but that's half the fun of a wish list. I want to talk about the games that I want to see. But now I want to hear from you. What's the one game that would make you lose it if it showed up? Drop it down in the comments, and let's see how many of these predictions age well once the show hits. And if you've enjoyed this rundown, consider subscribing. I'll have full coverage of the Direct here on the channel the moment it drops. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers all.